Hi. Okay, so I'm going to tell you this story. You might think it's a little crazy to tell this whole elaborate story just in order to get across one vocabulary word, but it's actually going to stick in their head really well. You'll find that they make reference to this story quite a bit. And again, I don't want you guys to show me telling the story. You have to just learn the story and then make up your own version. Okay, so what I usually do is I'll pick one kid, usually a boy, someone sitting in the back of the room, someone with a good sense of humor and that I know will play along. And I'll say, hey, did you guys hear that this summer Brent had a really cool summer job? And Brent kind of looks up, he's like, what? I did? What? And people are looking at him like, how does she know this about you? And I say, yeah, so I don't know if you guys, if you don't live in the upcountry area, you may not know about this guy that used to stand out on Kokomo Road. I think he was probably mentally handicapped, but he was so sweet, and he would just wave at all the tourists driving by or wave at all of us locals, and we would wave back, and I'll be really happy to see him. And it was just such a sweet thing. It was really nice that that existed. And then one day he just wasn't there anymore, and I think he probably passed away. And and we all really missed having that presence out on Kokomo Road. So I think it must have been the owner of the house where he lived was this Canadian guy. And so the Canadian guy put an ad in the newspaper to replace the waving guy. And so Brent saw this ad and he said, hey, I can do that. I'm friendly. I can go wave at people out on the road and make people feel good every day. And so that's what he did. He showed up and he interviewed with the Canadian guy. And the Canadian guy said to him, so Brent, eh? You think you can go out on the road and wave at people and make them happy, eh? And Brent's like, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. I'm friendly. And the Canadian guy said, okay, I give you the job. And so Brent showed up the next day for work, and he stood out on the road and he was waving, and everybody was honking their horn and waving back at him, and it was just that really sweet thing again. So at the end of the day, the Canadian says to him, Brent, you did a good job, eh? You come back again tomorrow and work some more, eh? And Brent said, yeah, this is the easiest job I can ever imagine. So the next day, Brent came back and he was standing out on the road and waving, and he could just really feel the good vibe, and everyone was getting into it. And so the third day he came back, though, and it was pouring outside. And Brent went up to the Canadian. He's like, so do I stand out there in the rain too? And the Canadian's like, yeah, you stand out there, and whether it's raining, yeah, you gotta go out there and do your job, eh? And Brent's like, oh man. So he goes out in the rain and he's waving. He's not as happy about it anymore. Um, and the Canadian guy at one point comes out and he says, Brent, I gotta go to Costco for a minute, eh? You stay out there and you wave and you make those people feel happy, eh? And Brent's like, all right, okay. And so the Canadian guy takes off down the road, and Brent's looking around and he's like, you know what? I think I'm just going to go stand under the garage for a little while and take a little break. I don't think he needs to be waving out in the rain. It's crazy. So that's what he did. Meanwhile, the Canadian guy forgot his phone and he drove back and saw that Brent wasn't doing his job, and he got really mad at him and he said, Brent, I hired you to do a job, eh? These people need people to make them feel happy every day, eh? And so you go, if you want to keep this job, you go back out on the road, and whether it's sunny or whether it's raining, you wave, eh? Okay, so you really have to ham up that last part and make it you wave, eh? And if they've even just heard the word once before, like you kind of have to introduce it maybe one time before you tell this story. Um, they all just get that kind of groan, like, oh man, I can't believe we just went through that whole story. But I tell you, they'll never forget that word for the rest of their life. Okay, and I'll have a few more of these for you throughout my lesson plans. So nice to meet you all, and hopefully you guys will really enjoy the lesson plans that I've made for you, and have a great year teaching. Adios!